Injuries and returns. That seems to be the common theme with WWE recently. Let's go into injuries first. Of course, last night was Backlash 2020, headlined by the greatest wrestling match ever. Now, to be honest, I mentioned this in our predictions and preview videos that we did, and the video specifically on the match itself. It was never going to be the greatest wrestling match ever, was it? That was obvious, and many fans thought they were being set up to fail and all of that stuff. And to be honest, they were. It got people talking about the event, though. The more I think about it, the tagline, as ridiculous as it was, worked as a promotional tool for the match, for the event. So you can't necessarily disagree with that one. In terms of the match between Edge and Randy Orton last night, you know what? I thought it was pretty damn good. I think it's, look, we've had two absolutely stellar matches in 1 week in WWE. We had the Intercontinental Championship main event. Well, it wasn't a main event. It was the main event of the show, but it wasn't the main event on SmackDown. The Intercontinental Championship final between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles on SmackDown, which is by far the best television match we've seen all year in WWE. It's a match of the year contender. If you haven't gone and watched it, go watch it. I don't think that feud's over either. We saw AJ Styles appear last night on Backlash, said that he's going to have a championship celebration this week on SmackDown, so I don't think that one's over for sure. So, but then we also had that followed by the greatest wrestling match ever last night. Now, a lot of people were saying the greatest wrestling match ever. Is it even going to be the greatest wrestling match of this week in WWE? You know what? I thought the match delivered. I thought the match was really good. They went like 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. It was shot differently. It had enhanced audio and had some different camera angles, different lighting. You know what? I thought the enhanced audio I thought was great. We've seen that quite often now with the sports that have returned after the whole pandemic era that we're living in. We've seen it in Germany, where the Bundesliga football, soccer to you Americans, has come back. They've started to use this sort of piped-in artificial crowd audio, and it makes it a lot more watchable. We're going to see it with the Premier League soccer football that returns this week, this Wednesday. And WWE here tried it out with this Edge and Randy Orton match. Now, some people are complaining that it was too difficult to watch because of it, or it took them out of it. You know what? I thought it really helped. I thought it really helped, added an extra atmosphere, this added atmosphere to the match. You know, the Performance Center recruits being there does help a lot. Certainly helps much more than having it be in an empty arena, that's for sure. But it still feels very closed and very small. That little bit of added audio just took it from, like a 5 to a 7 sort of thing. So I really enjoyed that. The camera angles were a bit weird. I liked the intro, having, Howard Finkel introduce them both. I thought that was great. Obviously, he announced them to the ring several times in their career, so I thought that was a really nice touch. And the nice touch of that, if there was anyone who should be doing the ring announcing for the greatest wrestling match ever, that should be Howard Finkel. So I thought that was great. You had Charles Robinson in there in the old school referee attire that they used to have in WWE back in the day. They still have it now in boxing. It's just little things like that make a match feel bigger and more important. I'm still a big advocate for bringing back that referee attire for WrestleManias or big events. It just makes it feel special. You don't have to have every referee dressed up like a Major League Baseball referee. You don't have to. They can be a boxing referee. They can be whatever. In soccer, most of the time they're dressed all in black. NXT have done that a few times now with the NXT referees being dressed all in black. I know the whole black and white stripe thing is kind of iconic for a referee, but it's not a hard and fast rule. I think they could be open to changing things, and things like that just makes you feel a little bit different, takes you out of it, makes you a little bit different. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. So the match itself, like I said, thought it delivered. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest wrestling match ever. It never was going to be, but I thought it's definitely a match of the year contender. I thought both men absolutely worked their behinds off. Great match. The best thing about it for me was the storytelling. I thought the storytelling was phenomenal. The doubt that they played in Edge early on in the match. Randy Orton was just outclassing him, doing normal wrestling moves and just the little normal stuff that you would be used to if you were in the ring for 9 years. And they played that doubt up really well, and then they moved it and they told the story throughout the match. Got a bit of blood in there as well, which to me just makes the match even better. Take note, Cody Rhodes, you don't have to do it in every match, but when you do it properly, you can just take the match up an extra level. Had a great set of near falls. They kicked out of both of each other's finishes. And then the finish itself was something that I did pitch in the preview and predictions video, was that if you're going to have the greatest wrestling match ever, if you have a Randy Orton who cheats to win, he ruined the greatest wrestling match ever. Talk about heat there, and that's exactly what he did. Hit a low blow, hit a punk kick, and got the victory. And then post-match, an absolute savage told Edge to go back home, go see his wife and his kids and say Uncle Randy said hi. Phenomenal stuff. So really enjoyed that match. It made the show worth watching. That and the Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley match was definitely the two matches of the night, but nothing came close to the Randy Orton Edge main event. Tremendous stuff, tremendous stuff. But the big news coming out of it, of course, and this was broken prior to the show going on the air by Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful.com. If you haven't followed him on social media, or if you don't go to Fightful, be sure to do. Great website, great guy, really personable as well. Can't say enough good things about him. He broke the story that Edge was injured, in fact, during the taping of this match. Now, of course, that was the only match last night that wasn't live. It was taped, was it June the 7th? So a week or so ago, 10 days ago or something like that. And he was actually injured during the reshoot. He wasn't injured during the actual match itself. They had to reshoot a couple of things in there. And as I mentioned, they used a lot of different camera angles. So it wasn't shot completely cinematically. That's what we got with the Street Profits Viking Raiders match. But it was, we certainly had some camera angles that required some stop and reshoots, and you could tell that in certain instances the commentators were overdubbing the original action. There's a shot of Samoa Joe talking and going crazy, and then you can see him in the bottom left-hand corner that he isn't speaking at all. So there was a lot of post-production there, hence why they filmed it early, because they wanted to get the crowd noise in, they wanted to get the announcers' lines in, they wanted to fit in the other camera angles and all of that stuff. But Edge was injured during the reshoots. Now, it hasn't been completely confirmed by Edge or the WWE, but it's been speculated and reported by the likes of Sean Ross Sapp, Alex McCarthy, and others, guys who I trust very, very highly. They've got a great record of being reputable reporters, that he has suffered a triceps injury, most likely a torn triceps. Now, there's a couple of schools of thought here when it comes to Edge's injury that he has suffered. One, when I first heard the news that Edge had suffered an injury at Backlash, like everyone, the immediate worry goes to his neck. You're going, oh my gosh, he was cleared, but you never know. You never know with these things, and you worry, of course. So thankfully, it's not his neck. If you're going to have an injury, you want it to be anywhere but the neck. So that's the only positive out of this one, really, but it's a positive nevertheless. So Edge most likely is torn tricep. That means they're estimating, a lot of people can estimate here, you never know with the severity of these injuries, but it looks like Edge is going to be out for some time around 8 months. That is a massive bummer. That is really, really sad, and it's really frustrating, given that this is Edge's only third match technically for his comeback. He appeared at the Rumble, obviously had the WrestleMania match, and now had this one. It's horrible news. It's horrible news, especially for the likes of Edge, who has worked so hard to come back. And you've seen the shape that he's in recently is phenomenal. Best shape of his career at the age of 45 or 44, however old he is. He might even be old, that 46. We'll get there eventually. So yeah, the injury sucks, and it means that we aren't going to see Edge in the ring in 2020 anymore. I would say the earliest he's going to be back is most likely for his WrestleMania match next year. Maybe he'll do another return at the Rumble next year also. We'll have to wait and see. It also sucks because I think people forget this when it comes to Edge because of his neck injury. But you've got to remember, around the time he retired, he was suffering a lot of injuries anyway. Around that period of time, it felt like from about 2007 onwards, he would get injured a lot. Whether it would be a torn pec on SmackDown, whether it would be an Achilles injury, whether it would be a triceps injury, would be shoulder injuries, whatever. He was getting banged up quite a lot. And at the time, people were saying, prior to even the neck injury, how long does this guy have left, because he's getting injured a lot. And this is even before the neck stuff really started to, people were talking about that. So it sucks for him. It really does suck for him. I think even the most frustrating thing about it as well isn't just obviously the hard work he's done to return. The frustrating thing here is that it wasn't even done originally in the match. It was done in the reshoots, which makes you just, it's one of those really frustrating things of, if we'd just settled for what we had and not tried to go on for perfection, and maybe if we hadn't had this huge expectation and this huge tagline to live up to, that was always going to be unrealistic, that was always going to be tough, and maybe pushed them a little bit too far in trying to find this perfection, maybe we wouldn't have had that. Maybe we wouldn't have had to do the reshoots, and maybe we wouldn't have an injured Edge right now. Of course, this is all hypothetical, and if you live in hypothetical, then you'll drive yourself crazy pretty quickly. But it's something to consider nevertheless. So again, when it comes to Edge and Randy Orton now, we had the WrestleMania match, which Edge won. We had the greatest wrestling match ever, which Randy Orton won. Of course, it would have set up the rubber match there. Previously, it had been reported that Edge and Randy Orton 2 was originally scheduled for SummerSlam, but due to the pandemic, due to losing the likes of Brock Lesnar, Becky Lynch, Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, and now they've lost Edge. WWE are hurting at the moment. Not just financially, but there's a lot of talent that isn't there at the moment, and the ratings are going down, and creative is a mess, and Edge getting injured just adds to another problem for Vince McMahon. And it means that we're not going to get what would be inevitable, the Edge Randy Orton 3rd match in the trilogy, till most likely Royal Rumble or WrestleMania next year, which again sucks. A positive of it, I guess you can look at that, maybe we're going to have fans in arenas by then, hopefully. And to Edge, Randy Orton deserves to be in an arena full of people going crazy anyway. Edge deserves to wrestle a match since he's returned in an arena full of people going crazy anyway. And I know people will say, well, the Royal Rumble, yes, to me, that was more of a moment than a match, to be honest, though. You want to see Edge have that big, long match in an arena full of people or a stadium full of people. And hopefully by the time he returns next year, we'll get that. Another positive you can look at it is that we aren't going to probably see Edge on television in 2020 again, which means that all of these dates and these matches that WWE has booked on him will happen next year instead. So I believe he had something like 4 matches contracted per year. And he would have done 3 this year, and then obviously a load of TV appearances as well. If he's not going to do any more this year, that means we're going to get maybe 5 matches with Edge next year, and even more television appearances next year, because Edge isn't going to make him this year because he's on the shelf. That means that's something to look forward to in 2021. Maybe it's the best thing for Edge. This whole year is just a disaster, isn't it? Not just WWE, just in Earth has been a disaster this year. Maybe it's best for him just to come back in 2021, clean slate. We've got fans back in arenas. We have some sense of normality in the world again, and Edge can have this stellar final run that he really deserves and really end his career on his term. Have these great matches, have these great moments, and like I said, just get something that he deserves. So it sucks. It's a bummer. We're not going to get Edge and Orton 3 at SummerSlam or anything like that anytime soon. Like I said, the original plan was to have Edge and Orton 2 at SummerSlam, but that all got moved up and changed anyway. But it's WWE. Plans change, and that's just the case. But what do you think? What did you think of the greatest wrestling match ever last night? What were your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Edge's injury? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.